This is the Ecco Stoves 678, one of the larger in the range made by Ecco. To call it a wood burner really is doing it a disservice. This is a total house heating solution really. We've got it fitted here in a very open plan large barn. This is heating a surface area of 90 cubic meters, or square meters, I'm sorry. Cubic meters, we've never worked out. It's a massive space. And there's 2 rooms off this, again, which this is heating completely, but it's doing a lot more than that. The heat that comes out of this thing, even after the flames have gone out, permeate down through that door, along the corridors, up the stairs, and heat the entirety of this Tudor brick-built, badly insulated cottage in a most incredible way. And it's something that we saw advertised when we were considering what wood burner we were going to choose to put in this space. Luckily, our local dealers had one of these in operation where it's been fitted in their showroom and heated that for a number of years, so we could see this in operation. And it was that really that convinced us that this was going to be a real solution for heating this for a 24-hour period rather than your traditional cast iron or steel log burners. Now in this video we're going to share with you a few of the tips that we've picked up from operating this stove over the last few months, because it is very different to a traditional log burner, both in terms of how you run it, refuel it, and how you light it. It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially if you've got traditional log burners that you've been using for a number of years. Now the Ecco Stove tagline is "Wraps your house in warmth," and when you watch some of the videos it sounds a little airy-fairy, mumbo-jumbo. You wonder, how is that actually going to work? What are they talking about? This warm heat that permeates throughout the home and magically transfers itself through slightly ajar doors into other rooms. But it does. I don't understand it. I'm not a physicist. I think a lot of it must be infrared radiation coming from the stone block. But this floor is a new build. It is well constructed with the standard insulation in the base. There is a underfloor heating system in here. So one of the tricks we've been using to monitor the efficiency of this is the temperature controls or thermostats, which are buried in this floor. Now this thermostat, as you can see, let me just press it again, the light's gone out, giving a reading of 21.1 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning after the Ecco's been unlit overnight. Now the thermostat is somewhere down there, probably about 6 inches under these stone flags. And that's maintained a temperature of 21 degrees. And now by the end of this evening, when this log burner's been radiating out, the floor temperature here will be up to around 24 degrees. And around the hearth, as you can see, the poodle loves it, you're probably looking at around 28, 29 degrees. You can walk across this hearth and it's really warm to the touch. It doesn't just heat the whole air in the building, it heats the physical bricks and mortars. The stone floor in this building is completely warmed by this thing. The sides get incredibly hot. This is the hottest bit, and I think part of the benefits we're getting from here is the fact that it's not being placed into an ingle nook or a fireplace, that it's freestanding. I do think, having had this in operation now for a while, that was a very clever move on our part, the fact that it's freestanding and we're getting heat from all 4 sides of it, because you don't have a big roaring fire in this. But in addition, there's also one feature that we added to this. With having it going into a new build, we were able to add the external air flow. This means that all the combustion gas air that's being used by this log burner is being sucked through this tube under the floor and to a vent on the side of the barn. I think that makes a big difference to the operation and efficiency of a log burner. This has a nominal value of 9.4 kilowatts output, but I think by taking the air from the outside and by standing it freestanding within the building, we're getting a lot more heat out of this over the 24-hour period than we would do if this was burning air from within the building and was tucked into an ingle nook or a fireplace tightly. So a couple of tips there if you're looking at designing where you're going to put it. Now we're going to run you through some of the operation of this that we've learned, just to help you make a decision on whether this is the right log burner and storage heater solution for your home. Now we're going to show you the firebox on this Ecco 678. It's an enormous firebox, completely flat on the base, which is quite a novel design for log burners in general. You usually have a depression or a retaining bar for logs. This is a multi-fuel stove, so it's got a slatted base or grill at the back. This is great. A lot of log burners have such tiny little small areas for the ash to fall through, or a riddling device which inevitably clogs up with nails and debris and stops working after 5 minutes. This is lovely. When you're cleaning the ash out of here, any retained ash overnight, you can see there's just a few little bits of foil and debris on here. All the rest has gone through, and if you're burning anything with nails in or screws or anything like that, they will all go through that grill into the ashtray, which is fantastic. Saves you having to pick them all out. Great design. Now the ashtray here on the base acts as a regulator for the airflow into a standard Ecco 678. It's a lovely, great big ashtray. Just look at this. It's constructed out of cast iron on the front and steel on the base. You've got a release handle here, which you just pull up. It's really a two-hand job, so I'm struggling a little bit with the camera. But there you go, that's released, and the whole thing comes out. And you can see we've got a lovely build-up of ash there. The whole thing just comes straight out. If I just take that out for you, you can see it's open on the back, which means once you've emptied this, you can come back in, place it back in, and any ash, you can see what a great fit it is that's still in the back of this log burner. By pushing the ashtray back in, you get a second fill and it completely empties the back of this ash pit, which is fantastic design. And it's also easy to empty because it hasn't got that back wall. It allows you just to tip this into a bucket. So fantastic design, really nice, simple and easy to use. When it comes to lighting the 678, the manufacturer suggests a couple of techniques. Certainly it's easier if you're using standard commercial firelighters to build a wigwam in the back of the log burner, but because there's no retaining bar or depression, the technique that we've come up with and we find works really well, particularly if you're using scrumpled up newspaper to start your log burner, is to put a large log in front of the scrumpled up newspaper to retain it. Problem with it being a flat surface is as the newspaper burns, it tends to collapse, and sometimes your kindling will fall forward. By putting this large round log or split log in front, that retains the fire as it gets going. And I've put quite a bit of kindling on this because we're going to start this and we really want enough combustible material to form some really good embers, so we don't have to open the door until the fire is completely settled. That's the time that we refuel it, and we'll show you that technique. So let's get this lit and we'll show you how we manage it. Here we go, the fire's lit. I'm just going to open the ashtray by about 1 centimetre and then close the glass door, but we don't lock it, we just leave it just open like that. And we're going to leave that open until that fire has completely established and almost burnt down. Find that's a good technique. What you want to do is heat this glass up so that you don't get sooty and tarry deposits on it. And the draw on this fire, because it's got such a long internal flue, takes quite a while to get back up to temperature. So we're looking probably at an hour and a half with the door left partially open, refueling it probably once over that period of time, and leaving the ashtray door open throughout that time to get the fire completely established and the whole case up to temperature. And your guide for temperature really This is one of the most important bits of kit that comes with it, the Ecco Stove temperature thermometer that just sits. This is a freestanding piece of equipment, just sits. Ideal position for it is halfway between the flue and the front of the log burner. But you can see this is still warm to the touch from the fire we had in here probably 12 hours ago. The fire died. It's been emitting heat all overnight, and it's still, the case of this is still warm to the touch. It's at around 50 degrees. So we're not lighting this from cold, and it's probably going to come to temperature into the best zone with one refueling. As I say, 45 minutes to an hour and a half is quite normal. This is a big lump of stone that you're heating up. It's not like a thin case of steel or traditional cast iron log burner at all. This is a storage heater. You can see how quickly and how well the fire gets going there. This is just with some wraps of newspaper, probably a dozen of them in the back there, with some thin slats of pine. And we just got to leave that now, do absolutely nothing until it's died completely down and there's no smoke or flames coming from it, just embers. And then at that stage we'll re-show you this and we'll refuel the log burner. 10 minutes after lighting, Poodle's enjoying it. Morana's probably coming to join him. The whole block in front of this log burner heats up from the previous day and it's warm to the touch still. You can see that the technique we're using here is keeping the glass really nice and clean. And just look how well that fire's got going, just with a few wraps of newspaper. Burning really well. Don't want to open this yet. The design of the Ecco Stoves with the massive flues that curl their way down from the top of this log burner round the case means that the pressure for the gases to have to flow downwards is quite great. And if you open the doors while it's smoking, and you can see the smoke wafting here round in front of the airflow that's keeping that glass clean, then you get quite a bit of smoke coming out if you open it while there's an active fire in it. And that's one of the techniques we've had to relearn with this. Most log burners you can open and refuel them and you continuously keep the fire almost flaring. The technique with the Eco is to let it burn down almost to just embers and then refuel it at that stage. And by doing so you avoid getting a large volume of smoke into the room where the log burner is located. So there's a few things that you have to do different with this to a traditional log burner, but it's so much more efficient in the heat that it gives out into the room and space. Really worth learning those new little techniques to keep this thing going. And it's just a fantastic piece of kit. We're loving this. So after about 25 minutes, the light's almost gone out of the firebox now. You can see the large log in front is still burning on its rear, but we've got some lovely embers at the back, and now's the time to fuel this. And we're going to put quite a bit of wood in, 3 quite large logs. This is poplar that we're burning here. So close the ashtray and very gently and gradually open the front. Now you can see some smoke emerging from the front, getting the logs right into the back. Don't think I'm going to get that other big one in. So I'm going to put a bit of pallet right the way in the back there. Okay, so close up the door, still not locking it. Open the base and almost immediately see the fire starting to engulf those fresh logs that have gone in. And this will really burn well over the next 20 minutes. We'll have a roaring fire in here, but we're going to keep it roaring and we're going to keep that glass door open and the front open until that temperature gets up into the best zone. If you close it down too early, you're going to find that the glass hasn't heated up sufficiently and you'll get tar deposits. And then for the rest of that firing, you will lose this beautiful effect and the glow and the vision of that beautiful fire in the firebox. So this technique maintains a nice clean glass front. Now this is absolutely the ideal stage at which you want to refuel this Eco 678. Lovely glowing embers, but no actual flame in the firebox. So going to close the ashtray very gently, open the front door, and the heat just hits you when you do so. And then we're going to put some quite substantial logs in here. Look at that one. Lovely, great big thing. It's the beauty of having a big firebox like this. You can really stack the wood in, and there you go. Wouldn't get that in any other design of log burner. Close the door, open the ashtray, and immediately look at that reaction and response, and an almost instant combustion around those logs. And we're just going to leave that open now. We've got this fire up to temperature. It's still not in its best zone, but it's running at about 125 degrees. But gradually now, with that temperature reached, we can keep the glass door closed, and this shouldn't ash up or get coated in black soot or tar. And when the fire completely surrounds all those logs, then we will close the ashtray and allow that to burn back down over the next 2 to 3 hours before the next refiring.